Hi traders, a quick video this morning on why I think the markets could be in trouble across the globe based on the information from the US30 and the Japanese Nikkei stock market index. These two indices are often a very good indicator for what may be coming in the future. Now, as we can see, this is on a weekly chart, so each candle is 1 week of pricing data. If I zoom in a little on the US30, we can see here that this market has breached the Bollinger Bands on the upper side, and that's on a deviation of 2.6 over 20 periods. We've also hit 41,000 clean as a price, and often that can be an indication that we will see some rejection off that clean 1,000 point area. It may not happen straight away, but it is something to be aware of. But the main thing that I'm looking at on a macro perspective is this market has pulled outside of this Bollinger Band so far. Just over the last day, we had a really strong push up. Now, what I am anticipating, as with previous events, which I'll go into in a moment, is this market will perhaps go up a little bit further, but eventually it will start to rotate down towards this perhaps mid-band and lower band. I'm just going to go back through right now and see other similar events. December 2023, we kind of hit it. We went flat for a little while and then we continued to push up, but we didn't fully breach that upper band. We got close here again. We did see a fall, but we didn't actually breach it there either. So I'm just going to go back through the pricing history and see if there's some similar events. We can see here, this is back in October 2021, very strong sharp drop following the breach of that Bollinger Band at 2.6 deviations. And again here we got close, very sharp drops once again. We got close up here. It took a little while to actually fall quite heavily, and this was COVID. As you can see, the pricing didn't actually breach those Bollinger Bands at that point, but we did back here in 2018. So we didn't even breach there, we got close, and what you can see is a massive fall. So from 26,800 down to 22,000 as the pricing on the US30. Again, it didn't quite breach, so no indicator here as such to show that we're expecting that decline. But this section here, it's very, very close, and what we did see is a very good fall. Just looking for other situations like this. We got close again here, but the band's pushed out, close here. And what you can kind of see is when we do get very close to this upper band, the market does retrace back inside its previous pricing, heading south. What we can also tell from this chart is that most of the time it doesn't actually get to that 2.6 deviation on the upper band. It does hit it on the lower, which can be a good indication for people looking to get into the market that this might be a good time. However, it's quite rare for us to actually push up so high into these bands at a 2.6 deviation, and especially at all-time highs. We'll go over to the Nikkei as well. We've got a very similar situation on the Nikkei. So last week we did breach that upper Bollinger Band. We'll have a look at the daily chart as well. So a few days ago, we had a really strong push up, which got us outside of those bands on the weekly chart. And if we go back through the history, this whole section obviously isn't the best example because it just powered on up. This section as well, perhaps not the best example. We did eventually get back down to break even had we have got in on this first touch. This point here, we've hit it and we've come down. Goes from 28,800 to 26,000 thereabouts. So very strong push down once we see that rejection wick on a weekly chart, which is what we've had over here. Perhaps not as strong as this little doji candle here, but it was a bigger wick pushing it back down. We've had some recovery. However, we did experience a very strong push down over the coming 5 or 6 weeks during that period. So that was mid to late 2022. Quite similar here, we didn't quite breach it, but we went up and then came back down. That was about, it's just under 3,000 points there, 3,000 movement lower. Again, this section here, very strong push down once we tapped it. This period we continued straight up, so that's not the best example. Touched it here, went flat for a period of time and then had a severe drop. That was COVID though. And then back in 2018, had a very similar situation. So we went up for a couple of weeks on this point. Perhaps you could even consider these sections. Whereas here you're at all-time highs, very similar to what we are now. And while we had a little bit more of an upside, the market ended up falling quite heavily. So it went from 24,300 to 19,400 thereabouts. It's a very sizable drop. And this situation has happened over the past sort of decade or so as well. So I recall back in 2011 thereabouts, this kind of layout where the Nikkei is super high, it's hitting the upper Bollinger Band and some kind of world event happens and then the market does tumble. So whether there's a correlation there between the prices go high and then something happens in the world, or if it's just a coincidence, that's something just to keep in mind. But I have noticed that when these markets, the US30 and the Nikkei, hit the upper Bollinger Band, money starts to look for better value in other assets, which means assets held in these indices can tend to sell off, causing the price to fall, and then something else will take the attention. So some other asset will have better value for investors, potentially. So just a quick insight as to where the position of global indices, particularly the US30 and the Nikkei, they're sitting very, very high. Just a warning, it's not an indication that things are just going to continue powering up. In my view, many people will start to buy in at these levels and liquidity will be eaten up on the short side, I would say, to be able to get into short positions from here. So just be aware, the markets are super high right now. If you enjoyed this video or took something positive from it, please hit the like button below. It lets me know this is helping others. To see more great content like this, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay updated with the latest.